What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. We're doing a prediction video on UFC 281, Israel versus Pereira. And this is a stacked fight. This is at Madison Square Garden. We're going to be there around the same time frame for the PFL event. So if you're out there, make sure you guys come see us. But anyways, let's get into these fights. Let's start with the first fight, on the main card. Dan Hooker. I don't even want to pronounce this other guy's name because I think Dan Hooker is going to run through this man like he is a shadow in the wind. Yes, I know. We're looking at this. Dan Hooker lost to Dustin Poirier, top 5 ranked, top in the world. And then he lost to Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler, first time from Bellator, champion, by the way.
Knocked out.
Hyped up fighter. Absolutely slumps Hooker. Again, this is during COVID time too, you got to remember. Hooker, he's from New Zealand. New Zealand is known for having the worst COVID protocols and everything. You have to do 2 weeks, 4 weeks total. If you're a UFC fighter, you got to do 2 weeks of COVID before you leave the country. And then he had to do another week in Vegas, I think.
So did everyone else.
No, not for the
New Zealand one. I'm talking about the Vegas one.
It's my turn. It's my turn. Shut up. It's my turn. All right, I got to restart. So he had 2 weeks in New Zealand, another week in Vegas, had the fight, got clipped against Chandler, and he's come out multiple times saying he's not really into it. The whole COVID, those 2 years really messed with his personality, and you could tell because I was a big Hooker fan. In 2019, when he was on that run, like the mentality changed. Once COVID hit, his family really had a big part of like his whole mentality and mindset in the fight game. And I truly believe like him having just one fight, having to take a month, basically seeing his newborn daughter and wife. I mean, that sucks. There's videos of him looking at his family through the fence that looked like it fucking sucked. And I'm sure that affected him a lot in the fights. And that brings me to another point. He's making a lot of money right now. He's getting paid by the UFC for his rank and what he's getting paid to his position in a lot of other divisions. He's getting paid a lot of money. And I think he was very comfortable, but I think now it's time he's realizing he can't keep on chilling and just making this money. He has to actually go out there and fucking grind and get out these fights like he's been doing. And I'm not saying he hasn't trying to been doing that, but I think this is the big turnaround. He's really not getting a big name. This is his first time in forever not getting a big name. And I think Dan Hooker runs through him. My final prediction, second round submission or knockout. Second round finish. I really don't know which one it's going to be. Dan Hooker, second round finish. He's going to walk through this guy like a shadow.
See.
Oh, no, wait. See? And also, shout out to the Ravens.
See, I am on the total other side of this. Dan Hooker has not looked like Dan Hooker since that Dustin Poirier fight. He has not looked like Dan Hooker. And you can say, no, it's my turn.
I just told you
You can say it's my turn. You can say, oh, COVID, he hasn't seen his family. I get that. But at the end of the day, he stepped in that octagon because he knew he had a fight and he had a training camp. So he knew it was time to fight. And let's look at his recent fights. Dan Hooker, he moves down to 145. He gets absolutely pounded in the first round. He did not look good at all against Arnold Allen. Yeah, it's not his weight class, but
Drop down weight class.
It don't matter. That was his call.
Drop down weight class is a big factor. You can't tell me that's not nothing.
That was his call. 55 wasn't working for him. Then he gets destroyed by Islam on short notice. Okay, short notice. I'll give you that. It's fine.
Against Islam, the guy you're hyping up right now.
Nasrat, he wins. Pretty good win. He did his thing. Went out there, put some wrestling into his game plan. Michael Chandler, he gets slept in the first round. The Dustin Poirier fight was the cause of this downhill of Dan Hooker. It's not the same Dan Hooker that fought Paul Felder, got in that war. He fought Ali Quinta. He knocked out Gilbert Burns. We're not talking about that Dan Hooker anymore. I think Dan Hooker is slowly on the decline. I love Dan Hooker, man. I do. But I'm not on this train right now with you right now. I think Claudio is going to get the upset here. I think Claudio is going in MSG on November 12th, leading off this pay-per-view, making a statement. Claudio coming up for recent win off of Clay Guida. He doesn't have any notable wins. I'll give you that. I know you want to say that. He doesn't have any notable wins. That's fine. But it starts November 12th. November 12th is when it starts. Claudio, he's going to go out there. He's going to do his thing. He's going to mix in the striking. He's going to get the win. I don't think he's going to knock Hooker out. It's not at 45. It's at 55. The cut won't be as hard for Hooker, but he's going to beat Hooker, a unanimous decision. I don't like what I've seen from Hooker. And if we're going to base it on recent fights, let's do that because Hooker hasn't looked good. And you can say Hooker's fought all these top-notch guys. That's fine. That's fine.
He
doesn't matter. It don't matter. November 12th.
You want to look at Hooker's losses? How about let's look at Hooker's wins?
He's not the same Dan Hooker. It's not the same guy.
I'm telling you, COVID changed him, and now he's back.
Let's get into the next fight. I'll take this one.
No. Before we get into the next fight, this kind of reminds me of our recent prediction for 280 of Gamrot and Beneil.
Not even close.
Okay, so
not even close.
He's not even close. So
Beneil's was winning. Dan Hooker's not winning.
All right, so I want to get my 5 Cokes back. So let's put 5 Diet Cokes on this.
Gladly.
Yeah.
Let's get to the next one.
Hear that? Let's go.
Frankie Edgar, his last fight in the UFC, man. What a great career by Frankie Edgar. Hasn't been going great for him. He fought at MSG last year against Chito Vera, got knocked out in the 3rd round. He looked pretty good in the 1st round, but just went downhill from there. Corey Sandhagen, he gets knocked out by that flying knee, which was, wow, one of the best knockouts I ever seen. Won the Pedro Munoz fight, split decision. Not many people thought he won that Pedro fight. Then he fought the Korean Zombie. He got knocked out. Max Holloway, unanimous decision. He got pieced up. Ortega knocked out. It's his career's just been on decline. Like, he's a legend, man. Don't get me wrong, but lately it just hasn't been good for him. And then Chris Gutierrez, a guy that's going to chop your leg up. Go out there and chop your leg up. He's been winning recently. You know, he's going out there back in March, spinning back fist and elbows. He's looked good. Then the Andre Ewell win, Felipe win, Vincente. This guy's on a win streak right now. He's like kind of like a younger guy going out there and winning. This is kind of a fight where I think they put the veteran against the younger guy to give the younger guy a little bit of a name. Frankie Edgar's last fight. I would love to see Frankie Edgar go out on a win. MSG, his home state, New York. But do I see it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think Chris goes out there, chops Frankie's leg up in the 1st round. Frankie gets clipped a little bit. Doesn't knock him down in the 1st round. But then eventually in the 2nd, maybe early 3rd round, Chris unfortunately finishes Frankie Edgar in his last fight in the UFC career. Man, how cool would it be to see Frankie win? But I think Frankie's going to try to wrestle a little bit in this fight. I think that's his path to victory. He's not going to beat him in the striking department, but seeing Frankie go out and win would be great. It's a great story to his legendary career, but I just think it's Chris's time. I think it's Chris's win. I think he's going to put on a statement at a Madison Square Garden, November 12th.
I could not agree with anything else you just said. Everything else was spot on. Frankie Edgar, legend of the game. I think Chris Gutierrez, like you were saying, I think Frankie Edgar's a legend in this game, a vet. Everybody knows who he is. And I think they're really going to try to build off of his name, which happens. And I think we're going to see it happen with Chris Gutierrez. He's really going to get a lot of hype. I'm saying 2nd round knockout. I still don't know why Frankie Edgar's still fighting, especially after that Sandhagen knockout. That was really brutal.
And the cheetah.
And I know these fighters are fighting in their 40s and everything, which I don't agree with that at all. He's 41 years old fighting in the highest realm of fighting. So I just don't agree why they even still have Frankie Edgar in the UFC. I think they should have let him just go out in the Hall of Fame or something. But I just think 1st or 2nd round knockout. I think this fight's pretty easy. If you're gonna put in your parlays as a free win, free money on this fight. There's really nothing to say about it. Like I could talk about stats and everything. Like there's really nothing to say about this fight. Out of every fight on this card, this fight is a clear win for Chris Gutierrez.
Takes into the next one.
But now we get in to not our co-main event. I'm gonna call it our co-main event because
people's main event.
This is the people's main event because this would be a co-main event if there wasn't a championship women's fight on this card. But this fight is a really for. I don't think it possibly could be for that championship number one contender spot. Well, what I think it's going to be for the number one contender spot, but I don't think the winner is going to fight Islam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is a big fight, and that division is nuts right now. Lightweight division, like it's just turned over, and it's such a stacked division. And you got top 5 people coming off 2 losses. Like it's just not set in stone. You know what I mean? It's not in order. It's like it's a whole clusterfuck right now. You got Conor McGregor sitting at number 13, what I think is ridiculous, just coming off a loss of Dustin Poirier. Just so one loss against Dustin, and then you're gonna bump him down to 13. That's another story, though. Anyways, this fight right here, I think it's gonna be a brawl. I really do. And can you scroll up a little bit? I just want to look at these records. So if you're looking at the records, Dustin has so much more experience in the UFC, but Chandler has a lot more experience in that top 5 thinking about it because he's only fought the top 5 of that division. And I think Chandler could really surprise Dustin because I think Dustin doesn't believe like in the sport anymore. He's out of the sport. He already said he was thinking about considering retirement. I go by if you consider retirement, you're done from the sport. And I think Dustin, this fight's at welterweight, right?
No, it's at lightweight.
This fight's at 55. Mm-hmm. So I think Michael Chandler clips Dustin Poirier, knocks him into oblivion, first round.
Fun fact: Dustin Poirier hasn't been knocked out since the Michael Johnson knockout. That was way back, way back. He's fought top elite guys and they never finished him. That being said, though, Kevin, what did I always say to you last week or 2 weeks ago? Never bet with your emotions. Never bet with your emotions.
I'm not betting with my emotions.
I'm just saying, you never bet with your emotions. Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler. Now, if we're just looking at this fight, striker versus should be, he never uses it, wrestler, be like, okay, I think Chandler has this in the bag. But Chandler never uses his wrestling. Ever. Ferguson fight, he used it for like, what, a couple, like 2 minutes? And it looked good. He needs to use it more. He never used it. In the Oliveira fight, I understand that because he's jiu-jitsu, but should have used it. Look what happened 2 weeks ago. Should have tried it out. This wouldn't have been wrong. Then in the Chandler, who else did Chandler fight? Gaethje. He didn't use it, which I did not understand. Use your number one thing. You're a D1 wrestler. Use it. He likes to get in these wars. The Gaethje fight, he got in this war. Dustin Poirier absolutely destroyed Conor McGregor twice after the first knockdown. Then he fought Charles Oliveira, and he lost. It happens. That being said, I love Michael Chandler. See you at the top is one of my favorite quotes ever. I love that quote. But I don't bet with my emotions.
I don't bet with my emotions either, and this is why I'm going to step in right here.
No, you're not. I'm not done. I'm not done. I don't bet with my emotions. My official prediction is Dustin Poirier by decision because Chandler is not going to use his wrestling. He's going to make it a brawl, and that's where he's going to go wrong. He's favoring Dustin. Dustin loves brawls too. Dustin will hurt him on the feet. Chandler may hurt him, but he's not going to knock him out. Dustin will use his combos, hurt him, and Dustin will have the clear advantage on the feet. And that's why Dustin's going to win this fight by unanimous decision because Chandler will not use his number one thing, his wrestling. And that's where it's going to go downhill. I love Chandler, but I don't think he wins this fight. Hope he does, but I can't do it.
Listen here, Ryan. In this fight, you got one man fighting for money, and then you got another man fighting for legacy.
I don't agree with
If you had a guess on those two people, which one's fighting for money and which one's fighting for legacy?
I don't agree with that at all.
Especially after their recent losses and their comments on those recent losses and their comments in the media over the months up until now.
I don't agree with that at all.
Who's fighting for money? Who's fighting for legacy?
Dustin's not fighting. They're both fighting for money, of course. Dustin's still fighting for legacy.
Yeah, all right. Who's not fighting for money? Nobody's fighting for free. I get that. But whose main objective is legacy and whose main objective is getting a paycheck?
Now that Oliveira is not champ anymore, Dustin can get a title shot again if he wins like 2 more times.
The momentum's lost. The momentum's lost.
No.
The momentum's lost. You're telling
me Chandler's gonna go out there and beat Dustin Poirier in the striking department. Is that what you're telling me right now?
So you're telling me Dustin Poirier is gonna get a 4th title shot within 4 years?
I'm not saying he's getting a title shot off this win.
He's gonna get a 4th title.
He's gonna go out there, beat Chandler, and then he fights someone else, and he's right there. He's right back there.
I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm saying Dustin Poirier doesn't make it past Michael Chandler because Michael Chandler, he's seen that everybody knows he is aggressive. We've seen his striking. This man can strike. We've seen his wrestling. He can go on the ground. He was on the ground with Charles Oliveira. He was in tough situations. I think when Charles on his back and he jumped back to slam in the middle of the round, I think that's really what lost him that round. But he still turned it around on Charles Oliveira. He's grappling with Charles Oliveira and absolutely smashed him in that first round. I act like that first round. I feel like the second round never happened. It was just that first round. Michael Chandler, great grappling. And I think he's going to mix that in a lot with Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier doesn't like to get pressured. Dustin Poirier hates getting every time Dustin gets pressured. You see in the Charles Oliveira fight. You see it in the Khabib fight. You see in all these other fights. I can't think of a top of my head. There's another fight too. I'm thinking whenever he's getting pressured, Michael Chandler's going to pressure him. He's not going to sit back and tag with him.
You're talking about fighters that are insane with their grappling and their submissions. When has Chandler ever went out there and submitted someone?
You want to go back to Bellator?
Yeah, and it wasn't that many submissions. He literally in Bellator too. He was a brawler. He's a straight brawler. He's a brawler.
Submitted every other person doesn't mean he's known for being a strong wrestler.
But he never uses it,
and because he has power in his hands. It's the best of both worlds.
But who's better in the striking department?
I would agree, Dustin Poirier, but MMA style, no, I think Michael Chandler.
That's wild.
You could have Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor box. Floyd Mayweather's going to be the better boxer.
Totally different.
MMA, Conor McGregor is a way better MMA fighter than Floyd Mayweather. That's what I'm saying. Michael Chandler is a way better MMA fighter than Dustin Poirier.
Look at it like this. Dustin Poirier fought some of the best strikers ever to step foot in the octagon, and Max Holloway put on a clinic against him. Conor McGregor, he had successful moments against Conor McGregor too in the striking department. Now he's fighting Chandler, who's not even close to any of those guys in the striking department.
You keep talking about history. I'm talking
I'll put 50 Diet Cokes on this.
No.
50.
No, because
I'm so confident in this pick. I am such a big Chandler fan, but I do not see it at all. At all.
Dustin Poirier, within the past 3 years, he beat Conor McGregor after a 3-year layoff. And then in the rematch, McGregor broke his leg at the end of 4.5 minutes into the first round. And then he went on to get choked out in a really brutal round against Charles Oliveira. It's my turn. No, you can put the fuck up. It's my turn.
Oh my.
You can shut up.
This is terrible.
And then before that, he was getting choked up by Khabib. All right, so let's look at Dustin. Khabib lost. Conor win against Conor. It should have been a no decision. It should have been a no contest, honestly. And then proceeds to get absolutely touched up by Oliveira. And he's coming out in media telling everybody how he's done. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And every single person who's deep in MMA, even deeper than me into MMA, they'll tell you when the fighter doesn't 100% love it anymore, they're finished.
All right.
They're finished. And we've seen that. And you want to talk about history, you've seen that repeat in history.
Calling a timeout.
That's why I had the mentality of Dustin Poirier against the skills and mentality of Michael Chandler. I think Michael Chandler goes in there, and it's going to be a really good fight. I'm not saying Michael Chandler's going to walk through him. I think Michael Chandler gets a finish, though.
After you lose an event like that big, you put in all the work, you're going to feel like shit. And that's what he felt like after immediately fight, felt like shit. Of course he's going to say, I don't want to do this anymore. My head's not right. He's a family, a kid, and he's getting close. He's getting older. He's already got the big paycheck from both McGregor fights. Of course he's going to say that. But after a few weeks, he rethinks it. What am I even saying? And you're talking about Oliveira. Let's compare guys that are similar to Michael Chandler. Justin Gaethje, who fought Michael Chandler last year, Dustin already beat. No, we're gonna compare them. We're gonna compare them because they're similar. They like to brawl. They like to brawl. Max Holloway, they're not similar. That's not similar. I'm not saying that's similar. I'm not saying similar as Max Holloway.
Should I be comparing him to Michael Chandler? Like what?
Gaethje and Chandler are known for their brawler. That's all they do. They stand and brawl. That's all they do. Max Holloway, not comparing it.
Just because Chandler and Gaethje have.
All right, timeout. I'm talking. You got your moment. It's my moment now. Max Holloway. He beat Max Holloway pretty easily. I mean, it was a closer fight. Khabib. Who beat Khabib in their whole career? No one. He went out and beat everybody. No one beat Khabib. I think it's such a terrible comparison. Dan Hooker. He beat Conor McGregor twice. He looked better than McGregor in both fights. Where is this narrative that Dustin is not going to do his thing? Charles Oliveira ran through the whole division. He beat your boy Chandler. He beat your boy Gaethje. He would beat anyone besides Islam. That's terrible narrative. What do those two guys have in common that he lost to? Submission threat. Chandler doesn't have that. Oh my. This is such a. I think this is
okay. Are ready?
No,
okay.
I gotta get into the next one. We have
to. No. All right. This is the last thing I say. You want to talk about submission threat, right? All right. Let's talk about submission threat. Both of their most recent, they both lost to the two same guys. We're talking about Charles Oliveira and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Charles Oliveira with the most submission wins in UFC history.
Yeah.
And then you got Khabib Nurmagomedov, which is countless conversations about him. Controversially being the GOAT and being the best grappler in the UFC history. So you can't take those two submission losses and say, oh, they're brawlers. They always lose to the submissions when their most two recent submission losses are to some of the best grapplers we've ever seen in our lifetime. You can't say that.
When have you ever seen Dustin just go out there and get knocked out? Let's look honestly, because I don't think it's happened since like
Conor McGregor.
Yes, and how long ago is that?
Conor McGregor won.
The last time he was knocked out was 2016. 2022.